We had some new data last week on venture capital fund performance in the US. To September last year, over 10 years, you would have made about 6% a year investing in VC funds. You could have done considerably better, 10% in a small companies index or even in the technology-heavy NASDAQ index. Rob, what's the problem with VC?
That's just pathetic performance, because the problem is your funds are locked up, of course, for a year at a time.
Yeah, and the image here is, yeah, they have a lot that lose, but they get into these
People think a lot about the home runs, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
the problem is that there are a few funds that do very, very well indeed. The problem is
they tend to get in on the ground floor of the ones that become home runs.
Exactly. But there are lots of problems with that, because first off, not everyone can get into the hot funds because they fill up very quickly. And then if you're a second-tier foundation, or an institutional investor, forget it, you're not going to get in there.
Right.
And then the other problem, of course, is that these companies, they've got benchmarks and they have to take it off and they have to say, okay, we've got 5% in venture capital. Well,
right.
Andreessen Horowitz isn't available. Let's choose this fund that no one's ever heard of.
Right.
And the odds are it's not going to do well.
You do start to see similar kinds of phenomenon in private equity, where there is this move to the upper quartile, I think, more so than ever. And return expectations have come back. I haven't looked at the same 10-year frame that you're talking about, but I think it's probably a little bit better, particularly among the bigger firms.
Of course, hedge funds haven't done so great either, of late at least. But, I think there's perhaps a little adaptation going on there in terms of transparency and things that the VC has yet to
VCs have not, they've not done any transparency. And a lot of the figures like the IRRs are very questionable because they'll jack up the IRRs by having companies go public too soon. They could have done better if they just held on. But the bigger problem is just there's too much capital in venture capital. The amount of money going in every year, it was about $20 billion last year.
Right.
That's about 5 times as much as there was in the early 90s, and that's when you got returns that were phenomenal in venture capital.
Yeah, I mean,
what's curious about that is that people are chasing it despite what these figures are showing, whereas in private equity you do see more money being reallocated into private equity because you're living in a zero return world. Well, I mean, 6%, you're starting to move actually quite close to zero.
Well, I mean,
it was zero, yeah.
CalPERS, the giant California pension fund, cut their allocation to VCs down to 1% of their total portfolio now.
And that's very emblematic. If you think CalPERS, it's California's California's pension system. If there's any place in the world people should know what's going on in tech, it's California.
Okay, we'll leave it there. We'll be following VC, private equity, hedge funds, and all these returns. And we will have more breaking views tomorrow.